To welcome you to somewhat of a departure from maybe a lot of the content today. We're going to focus a little bit on local government. I have the privilege of working with the Center for Digital Government, and one of the many things I get to do, and part of that organization is a group called the Digital Communities, which is made up of CIOs from large cities and counties across the country. So I spend a lot of time with local government CIOs doing what I think is some of the more challenging work in IT because they're the closest to the citizens. So if you're in the Department of Transportation or you're in Health and Human Services and many state-level jobs, there's a small percentage of the population that you're serving. In local government, it's everybody. And they're very close to you, they're very vocal, they come to council meetings, they come to county executive board meetings, they tend to be interactive. And that's sometimes full of fun. Sometimes it's a thorn. There's a CIO who's in one of our larger cities, New York, and there was a particular city council member, a borough council member, not even city council, who this woman never found a good thing that the IT organization in the city did, so they had to endure that for the 4 years he was CIO of the city. She's now, I believe, the Manhattan borough president. So now, talk about in your face in terms of what she's going to want the IT organizations to do from a borough point of view. So it's my pleasure to introduce 3 of the county CIOs to you today. You may not know them, especially if you live here on Oahu. You won't know Don Jacobs and Jacob Burkirky, but I'm going to give you a quick introduction. So Don has been an IT professional for over 30 years. First as a private sector person doing pre-sales tech support, field engineering, regional technical management, network consulting, director of IT for an international union. He's been with the county, however, for the last 4 years in various capacities, ranging from information systems analyst to his current position as Director for Information Technology at the County of Hawaii. So please join me in welcoming Don Jacobs. And my timing was almost perfect with the passing out of with the ladies. Next to John is Jacob Burkirky. Jacob is with Maui County. He's the Chief Technology Officer there. He's been responsible for IT management at the county since 2002. As such, he's responsible for the delivery of IT services to all departments and agencies from a very centralized IT organization. And he's been with the county actually since 1989. Please join me in welcoming Jacob Burkirky. So I should say this also about Jacob. He also represents the county on a number of statewide bodies, including the Information Privacy and Security Council and the Access Hawaii Committee. He also oversaw the creation of the Hawaii Interoperable Mobile Broadband Data System Strategic Plan, and has been actively participating in the efforts to build the Hawaii Integrated Justice Information System. So he's very active. Lastly, we have Mark Wong with us. Mark is the CIO for the City and County of Honolulu. He started his IT career almost 4 decades ago as a mainframe programmer analyst with Yale University. In 1981, he started the consulting business specializing in Unix and TCP/IP, incorporated it in 1986 as Commercial Data Systems. In 1989, when the university and University of Hawaii, and CDS had the only registered internet networks in Hawaii, he installed a server at Honolulu Community College, which is recognized as the first web server in the state. So he goes back a couple of years. So recently, Mark came out of retirement in May when Major Kirk Caldwell appointed him as the city's CIO and Director of Information Technology. So please join me in welcoming Mark Wong. So obviously transformation isn't just at the state level, it happens at the city and county level as well. We have 3 county CIOs here, of course, who will share some of the things they're doing both around preparing for transformation or transforming from an IT point of view, from a business process point of view. So hopefully you'll be able to learn a lot from all 3 of them. And we're just going to go right down the road here, so I'm going to turn the podium over to Don to get us started.
Great, thanks, Sam. Just a little bit of background for those of you that may not be aware. The island of Hawaii is the largest of the four geographically, and we're fourth in population. So we're spread across over 4,000 miles with 189,000 people. So what that does, it's a real challenge for us to meet the technical needs when people are spread in such a diverse area. But what we're trying to do is try to focus on things that give us the biggest bang for the buck and try to get as much information out to the people, because we do have limited resources and this large geographic population. So our primary focus right now is trying to really enhance some of our online services. Some of the problems that we're seeing, in particular for the public in general, there's usually very long lines for motor vehicles. People don't know when they get there that they have to have, especially with the new state identification requirements, federal identification requirements, they may stand in line for an hour or two before they find out they didn't bring all the documents that they needed. So we're trying to provide that information in an online method so that they know what to bring, they can try to be ready when they get there. We're also going to try to be implementing some online scheduling capabilities so that people can see how long the lines are and maybe even schedule some of these interactions so they don't need to come in and spend a large chunk of their day in making that happen. In addition to that, just in general, online services, we have many of them that were scattered across our websites, but you couldn't find them. So we're trying to consolidate this onto a single place where you can go in, find those sort of things. And these are the kind of things that we're able to do that are relatively low tech and low cost, but give us a big bang for the buck for the public in general. One of the other big projects that they've been working on, or we've been working on, is upgrading our permitting process. It's been quite a convoluted process, takes a long time. We're in the middle of retooling that, putting on a new application on it, and then allowing the public and contractors to check the status of their permit online, see where it is in the process, so we can maybe try to reduce the amount of time it takes for that actual permit to get through the system and the construction to actually begin. Those are the two things right now that are really active and hitting on the road. Other things that we're concerned about, because of the geographic aspect of the island and the limited population, broadband access is very, very limited. So our ability to provide these things online is only as good as people have access to the internet. So one of the things that we haven't really gotten a handle on yet, but we need to, is to try to provide better broadband capability for the population in general. In my neighborhood, I can't even get DSL. The phone company is simply out of service. We don't have cable, so we have satellite, if you can get that, or we use a MiFi card if you have a cellular service. And we have spotty cellular service in some areas. So that's a really big challenge for us, that if we can transform some of that, in addition to some of the things that we're doing internally at the government level, that's going to make a significant difference in the interaction between the public and the government in general. To do that, some of the things we need to do is try to share resources. I think in the last year, I've seen more interaction between the counties and the state from an IT standpoint, talking about, we have this or we have that. And for me, because we have very limited resources, I'm going to be the first one to raise my hand and say, hey, can I have some of that? And what can I give you in return? There's limited stuff that I can give you because of my staffing and my funding, but we have ideas. We have some real world problems that may or may not apply to other people, and we may have come up with solutions that other people can take advantage of as well. So using those shared services is going to really help us with a lot of the challenges we have. A couple other questions. The other thing we do, because we are a small revenue base, we spend a lot of time looking for grants and funding. And also, again, in the way of shared services, I'm getting ready to acquire a piece of hardware from the state because they're done with it, but I can certainly use it. So we have no shame in saying, hey, use that. So, it's less expensive for everybody involved. It brings much more to the table for the people. And it's one of the ways that we have that we can be very effective in a really short period of time, because a lot of the issues are more difficult to solve. Revenue is going to be a hard thing to solve. The technological build-outs that we need on our island are so extensive that they're not going to happen overnight. So we have to find these other really focused short-term things that can make a difference. And that's pretty much where we are at this point. I mean, I probably could go into more detail, but there are three of us, and I don't want to take up all that time.
Thank you, Don. I just want you people who are standing in the back to know there are chairs. If there's a seat open next to you, would you raise your hand real quick? They'll know where they can sit down, but we certainly don't have to stand back there unless you really want to. And you're welcome to do that. Yeah, right up here, there's at least 3 or 4 if you come down the center aisle. A couple chairs right over in here if you want to come in and join us. All right, let's go ahead and turn the microphone over to Jake. Are you able to hear in the back just fine when they're speaking? Okay, very good. Thank you.
Hi, I want to take you through a little bit of a timeline of the development of transformational thinking at Maui County. Probably just like with everybody else, the real focus on transformational thinking started around the time of the economic meltdown that we went through about 5 or 6 years ago. For us in IT, it meant that our money disappeared. We had to delay system replacement, regardless of the age of the system at the time. We had to delay new initiatives, and ultimately we found ourselves with a seriously aging infrastructure all around. I'll get to it a little bit, but we're hoping next year to finally be able to replace the system that has been in place for 20 years. So it's not any different than it is for any of you. Within the MIS division, I was the head of the MIS division at the time. Our reaction to that was to recognize this as an opportunity to focus on our own role, because we definitely didn't have the money to be tied up in a lot of big initiatives. We also realized when the economic crisis hit and people started cutting funds to IT, that the organization, the council, the administration didn't really have a good sense of our value to the business. About the same time, we were fortunate enough to be able to attend an ITSM conference in San Francisco, so we started recognizing that perhaps adopting ITSM best practices and approach to IT service delivery might be an opportunity for us to start expressing to the organization through our processes and our practices what the value of IT to a government organization would be. So we started with the transformation of our own organization. We could do that at the time because that transformation, adopting ITSM and ITIL best practice and process, was not something that would require a lot of money. It just required determination. We needed to train people. We needed to design our processes along these lines, but it didn't really require a heavy investment in funding that clearly wasn't going to be there. So we came out and expressed that our focus, our mission as an IT group was to become an IT service-oriented group, not an IT technology-oriented group, so that we would be prepared to provide that IT service support to any strategic initiatives that were going to come up eventually when the economy turned around and the organization would have to catch up with a lot of things that were being put off. So we focused on reorging, retraining, renaming. Instead of MIS division, we're now the IT services division. We wanted to express to everybody that we have a new focus. We developed a number of ITSM processes to improve our transparency, our accountability, and responsiveness internally. Of course, in the meanwhile, the IT infrastructure continued to age, so our workload shifted from replacing to just keeping the lights on. Again, everybody in this room probably went through the same exercise. In 2011, we got a new administration. Actually, it was an old administration. Maui County has a bad habit of kicking the bums out, so every 4 years we get a new mayor. The Arakawa administration that came in 2011 was actually an administration that had been there 2 cycles ago, so it's affectionately known as Arakawa Reign 2. And they came in with 5 priorities. And they came in because they'd been in that job before. A lot of the same people will come back, and a number of new faces. But they, unlike many new administrations, they more or less knew what they got themselves into. So they started off with 5 key priorities that outlined the transformation Maui style. And those 5 were an efficient, effective, and responsive government, strong, diversified economy, suitable public infrastructure, prepared, safe, a prepared, safe, and livable community, and a healthy and sustainable community. And if you heard Sonny speak this morning, you probably recognize a lot of the same things in the state government's priorities. So again, nothing new under the sun, but it was a change for us to have that expressed in these priorities and give us some guidance to work on. Now, all of you in IT know that all these initiatives have an IT component. So they all are based on the foundation of open government, accessible government, and a technologically compatible government, compatible with its citizens. People expect certain technologies to be used and to be available to interact with the government. So these 5 initiatives had an impact on what we need to do. And we believe, at least having had a couple of years head start on transforming ourselves into an IT service delivery organization, positioned us reasonably well to deal with that. We also got support to provide a comprehensive IT assessment, because the question we asked of the organization was, what do you want from us? And the organization kind of came back like, well, if we tell you that, are you ready to deal with it? So we asked the question in the assessment, are we well-positioned, well-structured, and well-resourced to support these strategic initiatives that the administration is going to come up with? And the answers in short were somewhat yes and no. Yes, we were somewhat appropriately positioned. Yes, we were reasonably well structured because of the work that we did in adopting ITIL and IT7 processes. But as far as resources, the answer was no, clearly not. In an earlier session today, I think Sonny said that IT gets 1.4% of the state budget. In Maui County, we were at 0.8%. And Gardner's guideline for state and local governments of our size, about 2,500 employees, about $500 million in budget, is 3-point-something%. So we could quadruple a budget and still just barely be reaching what the average would be. They also, in the assessment, it also was pointed out that in order for us to be more responsive and more ready to provide IT services to the organization in response to these strategic initiatives, we need to develop a group of business relationship managers. That's Gardner's term for people that work with the departments to translate their strategic initiatives into IT projects up to the point where, I have a contract for implementation, and then the future support staff would be responsible for implementation, so they would have the intimate knowledge of the application. We also need to develop an enterprise architecture, and clearly we need more staff and money. So we went to the council with that message. The response was great, but you get maybe half of what you need to, try to get back on the road to recovery. And so we're doing the best that we can with that. And what that is, what we're working on right now is a number of key efforts. We're in the middle of phone system replacement. The phone system we had was, I think, 3 or 4 years out of support and warranty. It was kind of on time and material. Let's see what we can find in the aftermarket in parts. So we're going through a more ERP system. The idea is to, realize cost savings, to extend the use of mobile devices, to increase the accessibility of mobile workers and of the public to the county employees, and that this lines up with the initiative to have a more responsive government. We're working with the police department. We have been for about 2 years now to converge our data and radio networks. They're in the process of upgrading their LMR infrastructure. It's all going to be IP-based, so they came to us and said, hey, you don't know IP. I go, well, that's good, because I don't know radio. Let's work together on this and converge that. It helps us to extend the reach of our respective networks. It improves the resiliency and the redundancy within the networks. And it, of course, is a challenge to make that, but we're well on our way to do that. And that addresses the mayor's priority of preparing a safe county. Legacy systems, I mentioned we have a system that's about 20 years old. We have a number of others that are approaching that age. So we're in the middle of replacing our property tax assessment system. It addresses, what we're trying to accomplish with that is to improve the accuracy and fairness of property taxation. There's lots of questions on how many neighbors pay less than I do or what have you. We also, about 2 years ago, rolled out a web interface so people can see their evaluations, they can see the tax bills that we can charge, they can see the various, the history of real property taxation and bill payment and stuff. So we're really trying to open up and provide that efficient and effective government that is in the mayor's priority. The 20-year-old system is our development monitoring and permitting system. It's 20 years old. What else do I need to say about it? It's from the days when Windows XP was new. Effective, efficient government suited with public infrastructure, all priorities from the administration in time to the replacement. It's going to be preceded. We're in the process of developing the RFP. We hope next year to have the funding to sign a contract and replace it. In the meanwhile, we are looking to roll out at least initial 311 system so we can improve the interaction of the public government, report problems, have questions, get status. The administration, one of the first things they did was create this team called the Permit Project Improvement Team that IT is sitting on also to look at how can we improve this process, because just replacing the technology that supports a broken system, we heard about that today at lunch, is not going to make a lot of sense. So we need to also understand how the process can be improved. Dispatch system at the police is being replaced. Our desktop refresh, I joked about the keyboard coming out of the days that XP was new. We still run probably 90% of our desktop platform on XP. So we haven't had the money for a long time. We've just been cannibalizing equipment to keep it running, what have you. The legacy systems, of course, are a little bit of a challenge to make them work in a newer desktop environment. We're trying to jump all the way from XP to 2008. I don't want to spend 2 or 3 years on 2007 and have to go through this again. So we're really trying very hard to jump right to 2008. I think we can do it with a few exceptions. There's technology coming up to help that, where we can, run virtual XP machines on some of these platforms. So it's an ambitious project, but we'll get there. And we want to leverage, what the customers are already, our users and the public is already familiar with, because everybody has a smartphone. So I'm really not buying into the notion that that might be too big of a technology leap for the users from XP to Windows 8 if everybody has a smartphone on their go. They already know how to swipe, they're already comfortable with tiles and what have you. I think we can get there after we show that it works with the pilot group. Centralized cashiering has been expanded, so now there are more places in Maui County where you can go and pay your bills. And Don was saying, his county is unique because it's very big. Our county is unique because we're scattered. We're 3 islands. Yeah? And I'm in another panel later on, I'll make the point that all the counties are in the Pacific Ocean, but Maui County is the only county where the Pacific Ocean is in the county. So it's a different way of looking at how do you provide services to the public. Improved transparency is very much in the forefront. We've had an award-winning website. This year we were second in the Center for Digital Government, Best of the Web for counties. Last year we were finalists. We've been getting A+ Sunny Awards from the Sunshine Review for transparency. We are in the process of rolling out public access into our imaging system. It's the open data concept that you may have heard about in the previous panel in this room. We've had dedicated web pages for activities for agriculture promotion by local, by Maui, all to stimulate this priority of diversified economy. The government is going over county-owned corner initiatives, and council and administration have been running blogs, sometimes a little bit more frequency than others. So the administration is really trying to use the technology to improve that transparency. Now, I'm kind of struggling with the theme of this summit, because is this really transformational, or are we really shifting any paradigms, or are we just trying to catch up on delayed forward movement? I'm not really sure what the answer to that is, because when I think of transformation, I think of monster trucks turning into robots. You know, those are really radically different things. Are we going to be that radically changing government around, or are we finally getting what we should be working on all along? Maybe the end result is still an aha moment or other. IT and that needs to be an enabler, but we cannot succeed without the business focus and the business process change driving this whole transformation plan. And hopefully we're ready in IT at Mount County to support that.
Great, thank you, Jacob. Now let's turn it over to Mark.
Hi, I'm honored to be here with these veterans of government. I've only been on the job for 6 months. The mayor approached me and said he wanted, in his terms, to move the needle. But what he really means is to transform government. And I took this job viewing that we would not be, IT would not be there to support change in the government, but to lead it. And you know, I've been a CEO for 30 years, and I approach city government as a very large organization, and my role is perhaps assisting the mayor as CEO of the county. The first thing I did was to come in and really just listen to the employees and see what was being done, and to try and find my way around government. And I was quite shocked. The city and county has automated a lot of things, but there are these many different systems. I count over 400 different programs that have different interfaces, require different browsers. I would go to one system, it would require one browser, and I would go to another one, it would need another browser. I'd try to bring my Mac in, it didn't work. Tablets didn't work. And so I was asked what my vision was, and I basically painted a vision where everything would be in one completely integrated system, and that I felt that we would need to basically rewrite everything that we had. And one of the employees actually said to me, "Why are you trying to do this? You're not going to be around long enough to make any changes." And I don't know how prevalent that thinking was, but we went ahead with it, and I will state my basic vision, which is to develop everything with open standards. So to get away from anything that's proprietary, develop software that will let us run on virtually any type of system on the server side and on the client side. And the stack of software that I decided to base this on was MySQL, which is an open source database, PHP, which is an open source language, Linux, which is an open source operating system, and Joomla, which is an open source content management system, none of which I had really used myself. I used other variations on it, so I went in this with a group, and we're all in the same boat. I think we basically decided that we would have concurrence on this, and we started on this roughly around July. So it's been a little over 5 months, and what I wanted to do, rather than talk so much, is just to show you what we've done. So again, the vision is a single platform that supports the entire government, not siloed by department or by function, but the entire government. So we're taking a global view that encompasses both administration, legislation, and the public. So I'm going to show you 2 of the sites. I'm just going to go through it real fast, and we'll be around downstairs in the booth if you want to get a close look at it. First thing we did was to, can you guys see? Is to revamp the internet site, which I guess was several years old, and to come up with a system that was responsive. So if you resized it to a tablet or an iPhone, it would not only adapt the layout, but actually the look and feel. So if you switch to an iPhone, the buttons and things look like an iPhone. I think I can do a little bit of that here so you can get an idea. You see, basically just transforms the interface to whatever device you're on. And it has to be accessible to people that are visually impaired or have other types of handicaps, I use the term. Different size fonts, change the contrast, be able to read the text for you if you can't see at all. We also went to HTAs, the visitor bureau, to see who our audience was in the public. So we've translated into the most popular languages: Japanese, Korean, Chinese, and even Polish and Canadian English. This site is geared towards the public. So while we do handle the structure of the government as we see it in the city, by department, division, etc., it's more geared towards what the residents would expect to find. They want a permit. They don't know what kind of department that is. Their trash isn't being picked up. They don't know that's ENV. So we structured that to accommodate their needs and not so much our needs. We have a lot of our featured applications, the bus, including the mobile version, which was written by some of our people in-house, including Andy Yip, who is somewhere here in the audience. And to highlight some of the mayor's initiatives like TOD, which is transit-oriented development for rail, repaving the roads, put all that information online. Just technically how we did this, I think this is important for us to discuss. How do we get this done? It's fine to say, well, you're the city and county, you've got 150 people in your department, you have the resources to do that. Well, we started this with 2 people. And we had a project going on before with a couple of designers, and I went to the managing director and got approval to go ahead to stop everything, basically, and just drop it. As a friend told me when I told him my problems at the city, he said, turn around and run. So I took that to mean to turn things around and then run with it. So we got $100. This is the result of a $100 investment. We had most of this up and running in about a week. Sorry, that's my real phone, that's the phone. And this is running on the Joomla content management system. So we did proof of concept, people bought into it, and we basically evangelized and got people to take interest in this. So this is all delegated content management. Every department has access to do it. And any company could get this up and running for about $100. I realize I'm short on time, so I'm going to jump to the Intrun app, which is the in-house part. Now, this is what the part that I think is going to transform the government. Now, currently we've got hundreds of packages with different vendors. They all have different interfaces running on different databases, different security models, and I think we have to just integrate all of this. So I picked a platform that I told you about. MySQL is a database, PHP is a language, and the team again chose Joomla as the framework for this. We spent another couple $100 on this, so this site costs about $200. So between the two, we've spent $300 and got this all up and running in about 5 months. We started with a few very small projects, including the driver license requirement systems, and then we did a queue system. And we just did one small piece at a time to show people that this really works. I use a development style I call hyper-agile development, where we have very small tasks, we get them done in a day or just a week. And we see progress, people have ownership in this, and this is the result. So a lot of this design is due to the team of people I have out there. We've got about 6 people, I think, on the internet side. So they came up with this concept, because they're much younger than me, of an app store. So instead of having all these hundreds of applications available, I go to an app store here, and I can choose the applications I want. And they're tiled, and I can install them and uninstall them and find out what they're about. And I'm going to show you a little later, it even has the email and the phone number of the person that administers this. So if I click on the phone number, my phone will actually dial that number. If I click on the email, it will actually do email with them. Okay, so to install something, this is our ERP system, Chirps. I just click it and it's on my desktop. If I go back to the App Store and I decide I don't want Chirps, I'll just say uninstall and it disappears. We can do cool things like change the background, my team was remiss, they were supposed to get me a Thanksgiving background. This is multiple pages. So this concept of tiles, we have a city cam, which is actually a Mark Wong cam, it's sitting in my office. But you can see I don't know if you can see, that tile actually has live video in the tile. And if I click it, it goes into full screen video. The Chirps goes into the ERP system. Twitter is all the city tweets. We're actually going to have a town hall meeting in December where all the directors are going to be in a room with this app, and all the questions will come in over Twitter. One cool little thing here, I said it has to look Hawaiian, so you notice the home button has some palm trees growing out of it. The city council calendar, if you link to that, you get all the agendas and the bills and resolutions that are there. I'm not going to go through all of these. Work schedule, we've tied into legacy systems. Now I should explain that this system is running on an IBM mainframe under Linux. And I realize that most people don't have IBM mainframes, but this will also run on a Mac Mini, which we've done. It'll run on a PC under Windows. It'll run under a Mac. So it's completely platform independent. We have our city document management system here, our forms management system, which basically is our workflow. So without having to log into our eForm system, I can see how many eForms I've got outstanding. And if I want to actually look at what those forms are without going into eForms, I see them within the internet portal. It's still running on the mainframe, even though eForms is running in Windows. So I can preview them, and I can actually go in at this point and start doing approvals and whatnot. So the goal is every app that we've got out here will appear on this desktop. In that sense, this is acting like a portal. But our real goal is to have all those applications running on this internet, completely integral to this system. Leave, I'm not a good one to show because I haven't taken any leave, but it shows me my hours, and for the employees that have been here for a while, it will have graphs showing their vacation, sick leave, and all that. There are a couple of icons here for directories, and these projects demonstrate one of my big challenges. When I got there, there were 10 different databases, sources of information on employees. We had it maintained by the database for the Department of Design and Construction. HR had their own. We had Active Directory. We had the PBX system. We had our security system. Stuff was all over the place. It took me 4 months to break down the silos and get access to that system so we can consolidate it in one. And the result is this application. So this is the mayor's office. Actually, let me go to it. Okay, so this is the directors and deputies. So you notice the photos that came out of our security system, the title came out of HR, the telephone number came out of the DDC thing, the email came out of Active Directory. Stuff is all over the place. It's all in one system now. So if I go down and say I want to look for my deputy, I'm just going to keep this in here. Oh, sorry. I'm having a hard time reading this. All right. So these photos I found extremely useful because with 10,000 employees, I don't know who's who in the government. I've only been here 6 months. It's really hard for me to remember. And if I dial, actually I have to sign on once since we brought this system down here. We don't have single sign-on working with Cisco because they can't figure out how to do it yet. But we know how to do it. So if I do this, this is my work phone. And it dials any number on my phone. All I have to do is pick it up if Keith were to answer, but obviously Keith is sitting in the room, so he is not to answer. So I'm going to go and go down to our Department of IT. And this will take a while because we're on not the fastest connection, and we do have over 100 some employees. So here we are, we've got it up, and let's pick somebody in the room here. Has a mobile phone. We'll see who answers. knows that there's pictures up there.
Oh! Oh, it's our directors.
You don't have to answer it. So anyway, I'm not going to go into all these applications, but you get the idea that this one page is where I landed at the beginning of the day. I can see all my email, my events, my forms that have been sent to me to approve, everything I need to know that's unique to me. And we also have another tab for the department. Service, security warnings about when a new employee started a while ago. So as you can see, it's just basically got department information. It's got our logo. Anybody in the city that logs onto their page gets their department page. One of the things that we do a lot around the city, or we try to do, is to manage projects. We've been using a very expensive project management system, sometimes to manage very simple things. This will give every single employee in the city the ability to manage their projects, their division's projects, departments, or the city's projects, and see these Gantt charts and tasks and everything right in their dashboard. They don't need to go log into a project thing, or we don't have to pay license fees for this. It's all completely integrated. If I go to my internet and search for a word that happens to be a project, it's going to find it. We have a photo bank at all these different levels. There's a caption in a photo. When I search it, it'll bring up all the photos that match that. It is completely integrated. All the news. We have forums, so you can chat on different projects, different topics. Ask a question, a technical question, and people can chime on it. So you've all seen those types of different things, but it's completely integrated in here. We have city level things that pertain at the top level. So the mayor's office is constantly issuing press releases. Before they would go in Word, create a PDF, send that out there. Create HTML, post it to every employee in the city. We start with 10,000 copies of these in our mailboxes, and the secretaries would duplicate them to everybody in the departments, and we have 20,000 copies. Here, they're posted online in real time. If they're entered on this site, they will flow over to the city main site, so we don't have to enter this information twice. And same thing, they've got the forums and photo banks and links to all the various things within the city. And finally, I want to talk about the dashboard, because I think to manage an enterprise, you really need to have metrics at your fingertips. And we've got, as I said, these hundreds of applications that you'd have to go and log in and look at a report, or go to the city website, download the annual report and look for that, or if you want to know something on a national basis, go to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, or go to Bureau to get economic news. So all of this information now, dashboard at your fingertips, you'll be able to pick and choose the tiles that you want to see. This page are the mayor's initiatives. So he's very interested in the roads, where the rail is, obviously the budget, things like homelessness and the estimated bills for the Board of Water Supply. So these tiles can change on the overview page. I'll spend just a minute to go at the city budget. So right now we've only got 4 years of budget, but if I click on that, it drills down into the budget for 2014. So here's the city budget, which is $1.3 billion. And if I want to see what Parks and Recreation is, I click on that, that will zoom up, and then I'll see all the departments and the departmental budget there. If I want to see why maintenance support is $5.89 million, I'll click that, it'll zoom in, and I'll see at the fund level, the object level, etc. Entire city budget, multi-year, I've done nothing but click a button to get to any of this. So this is a very active dashboard item here. We can get statistics off our data.honolulu.gov site, it's a great site, but you know, if you've ever gone to it, it's not so easy to visualize these things. Here you don't have to do anything. It's just under the public safety tab. You want to know what the motor vehicle registrations are like on Oahu, you can just slide your mouse along there and see anywhere from 1970 up to the current, all the different types of motor vehicles we have. Crime statistics. Here's some live information here. This is actually our mainframe. So it's our idle time here, which you see is very, very consistent. Just to show you that we can take real-time data as often as 1/10 of a second, 1/100th of a second. So without logging onto the mainframe, doing a command to see why it's slow, I can just monitor that here. I can monitor the temperature within the data center, any type of statistic. What is our recycling rates like? Where's our waste coming from and where is it going? What types of recycling have we done? Homelessness, where the executive budget goes, where revenue is coming from, what property rates are like, what property tax revenue is like. This is pulling from an external site. This is from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. It's the federal site, so we can see what types of people are employed in the city and county of Honolulu. Single-family home sales is from like a site that is running, I believe, on the city servers. So we can add to these things as we go along, but you can see what we're doing is we're taking the whole city, breaking down these concepts of departments and divisions, and this is my data, that's his data. We don't want to share it. It's all Honolulu's data, whether you're a citizen, whether you're in the legislative branch or the executive, we all share this information. And this project is really meant to unite the entire city under one roof and to really think of our operation as one. I think it's transformative in the sense that it will enable that for the government, but I also think it's transformative in that it has changed the way our department is operated. We will probably save somewhere around $1 million a year just by having our own apps integrated in here that we wrote, that we can support, that we can modify, data that we own. We don't have to buy a package with 1,000 features, 10 of which we need, and spend $500,000 a year on it. We develop the features that we need, and we build in the links for open data and transparency for the government. And we make our administration accountable by putting metrics that everybody can see. So I hope I didn't run over my time, but I just wanted to briefly show you some of the things that we've done, what can be done in 5 months' time with $300 and about 8 people. It's very doable, and if you can do this in 5 months, imagine what you can get done in 4 years, or 8 years, or 12 years. I truly feel that by the end of the mayor's term, we will have completely transformed IT at the city of Honolulu. Thank you.
Okay, questions from any of you for our panel? Yes, please.
You say you had a presentation downstairs?
Yes, they have a booth in the exhibit area where they'll be able to display some of what you've just seen.
What's the booth number, the name?
It's on if you're facing the Coral Ballrooms, it's the second booth from the right next to the city, and I'm sorry, the state's network operations center display. They've got a big 4 display wall unit, and we've got the table next to that.
Thank you.
Other questions? Yes, please, in the back.
You have those dashboards up for your intranet. Do you have plans to put those kinds of dashboards up for your public site as well?
Yes, we will. The reason that they're not there now is because no one in the administration has ever seen the dashboard before. And they need to see this data visualized, not only, because this all came from DIT. We did all this, as I said, we wanted to be the agent for change. We are driving this. We're not doing this in response to any department's request. But they are the people that generate the data, and they need to see how it's visualized and have a chance to add to it, correct it. When people are looking, maybe you work a little harder. So we want to let them know that we're going to start with 10,000 eyes on their operation, but soon that's going to be 800,000.
Good. Other questions, comments? You're very quiet. Yes, please. Yes, you.
So in the smaller counties or the less populous counties, let's say the Big Island, Don, besides not having money and not a big population, really, what do you think is going to provoke this to drive the change that you see needed on the Big Island?
I think some of the examples that Mark put up there are really going to be helpful to drive that change. If we can take advantage of some of the things that he's just shown, even at the beginning on the internet side, and then leverage those out to the public side, I think that's going to make a big difference. So I'm clearly going to spend some time talking to Mark about all of this.
And when we had our phone call, our first phone call last week, the envy was evident in terms of, wow, this is great, and you'll share it with me?
I don't know if many of you are familiar with open source, but the philosophy behind that is that there's a huge community of people that have developed software and they're willing to share it, but if you use it, you've got to share your contributions back. You've got to sort of pass it forward. And we want to do that here. We're not making money off this. We are doing it for fun too. I mean, we have fun doing it. But if it can help other people, then we're certainly willing to tell people how we do it and show them how to do it.
Just from an innovation point of view, Mark, why don't you share the story of the humane system your team just created? I thought that was very innovative and just what it took to pull that together for motor vehicles.
Shortly after I took the job, I was at a cabinet meeting and the director of that department was sharing how they had problems with people waiting in line at the shopping centers, and that this particular branch chose one product and they're going to put that in, and this one on the other side of the line is going to put in a different product. And I said, what? That's a terrible example of siloed decision making. But I went down there and spoke at the press release of the Ko'olau DMV. And I was just shaking my head, and I said, we could do better than that in a day. We could write a better system than that. So that project was actually how we kicked all this off, because our employees had no experience in any of this. So we had to develop our own training. So I put together training of an hour and a half, followed by an hour and a half of developing this queue system. I called it a boot camp. And at the end of an hour and a half, we didn't have the whole thing finished, but it was enough to really show that we could write a much better system. So several departments looked at it and decided that as a city, we're going to choose this as a standard for our queue management. And we wrote a system that checks you in, finds out what kind of service you have, whether you have the right papers or not. Does a lot of analysis to see who's serving at the counters, how long it's going to be before you come up to a window. And you can go out shopping, which is what the shopping center wants. And the system will text you automatically 15 minutes before you're expected to be served. When you come back in, the system automatically generates the voice announcement saying, ticket number 123 being served at window 12. And it keeps all the statistics by server, by the employee, by the type of service, by the station that you're at, by the time of day and the day of the week, because these things all vary. And it will not only do that for one station, it will do it for all facilities throughout the city. So we'll be able to monitor that. You can go to a website, see what the queues are like, see where you are in the queue. And it's actually going to enable us at Kapolei to mix the Department of Motor Vehicles with the permitting department. So you can show up and get your plans checked, or pay your water bill, or get a bicycle license, and the system is going to queue all those same things. And Kevin Chan, who is my first employee to help me stand up Kevin, because this guy is brilliant. He's really developed a lot of these things. He took the lead on the queue management system. He got the single sign-on working with our mainframe and our other applications. And I put a lot of faith in the new generation of employees that are at the city. They're really taking the challenge of developing these types of systems. And please come down to Pearl Ridge on Black Friday, when they expect things to be the absolute worst, because you will be able to see that hopefully there won't be long lines out of the DMV. They were going to kick us out of the shopping center because we were obstructing traffic so much. So this queue management system is in response to that.
Thank you, Mark. Other questions for the panel? Yes, please.
Well, I'm just curious, and I wanted to compare the different jurisdictions on your challenges, initiatives, or thoughts about how you manage your social media accounts. If you're already on there, or how do you manage that? If you have policy to follow.
That's an excellent question. We have a lot of that starting to happen now. We have people using Twitter, we have Facebook accounts for various departments. We've not really established any policies on that yet. I believe it's something that is a concern because it's a content-based situation, and you don't want people putting things out there that might reflect badly upon the county. So there's got to be a way to handle that. And we really haven't come up with the methodology on it just yet.
At the County of Maui, we've had Twitter and Facebook as part of our website. We do have a social media policy in place. We kind of culled that from what's out there. Various organizations have accumulated best practices in that. We have not really opened it up to every department to have their own social media page, or it's fairly centrally controlled through our county information officers. I know council has a number of social media feeds also. We tie it into a website, so anything that gets posted as an official message on the website automatically gets fed to Twitter, Facebook, and I think an RSS feed as well. So we can subscribe to these notifications through a subscription module that's there. Enthusiasm kind of was very high early on, and then it kind of settled into being mostly a copy of official notices that get posted on the website. So we reach more people that way, but when there is, of course, a tsunami warning or something like that, it picks up and there's lots of information being exchanged there. But other than that, it seems to be pretty much a copy of the official notifications coming out of the information officer.
I have no idea. I think Jane and Christy, or Jane or Christy, are here from our internet side, and they probably know whether we have any policies or not. But we certainly do have it well organized, and on the new site, there will be a matrix, and you can see all the different departments and different types of social media. And as I said, the mayor is moving towards encouraging communication via social media, and the next town hall will be totally electronic.
Mark, just a quick question I wanted to check with you. The website for the city and county has not transitioned to the new format yet, or has?
This right here is the public unveiling of both sides. Actually, most employees in the city haven't even seen the intranet site. So we've been working towards this day to show this, and we probably will start moving the internet to the public side in December. There are a lot of technical issues because we're running it on the mainframe, and we are very paranoid when it comes to security. So we want to make sure that everything is in place before we do that.
Yeah, makes sense. Thank you.
No, it's not up.
I was curious because I went to it and went, well,
It looks like the same old thing.
it's the same. Okay, good, thank you. I figured someone else would call you on that. So
If I could make one follow-up comment on the social media question. We are watching closely to see how perhaps case law or other law develops as far as to what extent social media constitute government records. That makes us very nervous. And so that's why we've been very careful not to just tell everybody in the county to go to town on this, because we know that we'd be crossing boundaries that we will have a hard time getting back. So we're being very cautious about it, and that's why it's mostly an official information feed rather than an open forum in most cases, because it's dangerous ground.
Thank you. Yes, there's a question right here.
Along the social media lines, I was wondering if any of you have any insight to what the citizens are saying on their social media about the services that you offer.
I don't know if anybody at the county level on the Big Island is monitoring that actively, but I know anecdotally from myself and other people, we look at various community websites. There's one particularly called Cool Web. We try to keep an eye on that to see, kind of get a temperature of what's going on out there, but I don't know that we have anyone really efficiently trying to track that and react to that. I think it's a really excellent place to start looking at.
We have a number of very connected officials in the mayor's office and the managing director's office, so they are always checking that, and then as appropriate, it will trickle down to IT. But me personally, I don't have a real good insight into the conversations that are going on. It's mostly about county services and not so much specifically about IT aspects. So I'll just kind of let it filter through the mayor's office before it continues.
It's exactly the same at Honolulu. The digital people that monitor these are primarily in the mayor's office, the public information people, the spokesperson for the mayor is monitoring this constantly. Again, it's the younger generation and us older folks don't spend much time looking through that stuff.
Yes, please.
I just wanted to compliment you, Jacob, on saying that. I have worked with local government in a number of places, and people get their hair on fire about them in social media, without understanding, in my mind, that we've got a tool here, but it still has to be managed on the business end. And so the questions about who's going to manage that data that goes out with the whole records issue is part of it. Personnel issues are created on certain websites and so on. And so without really thinking through the big picture holistically, like how does the tool tie into this, where does legal come into this, those are, I think, all the ramifications of being able to tie it all together. And I think they're excellent questions, because because people can do it individually, they think it should be okay for government to do it. But if you're going to set up a site, people then expect that you're going to manage it every day, and that sets up management issues. So I think it's excellent questions. I think your comments, Jacob, are right on.
Yeah, there's definitely, as you look nationally, which I do, and see what people are doing, we see it's definitely hit or miss, whether there's a policy or not, whether an employee has approval to use social media or not. There's been many challenges. We've seen some cities ban use of it because a council member was using his city-provided laptop at 9:30 at night from his desk to check his social media feed to see who was connected to him. And it was a personal activity, not a business activity. And that made the newspaper, when someone did a freedom of information request on all the records of what was being done on social media, that was shown there. So now a government official was using it for their own purposes at 9:30 at night. And so this particular city had to shut down all use of social media. The city has a knee-jerk reaction. It's an unfortunate answer because people are connected. The other thing we see, though, which I think I'm curious about what you guys are doing. There were tornadoes, obviously, in Oklahoma City this year, very devastating. You all saw that on the news. I know the CIO of the state of Oklahoma, Alex Pettit, and I was going to call him up, but I decided I would look at social media feeds and see what was going on before I called him. So I went to the emergency management website to see what they were saying. I looked around the state to see what was on social media. And the emergency management organization for the state has both a Facebook page and a Twitter feed. The Twitter feed had last sent something out on Friday. This was now Tuesday after the storms. On Friday, they were warning that there were a possibility of severe windstorms over the weekend. That was the last thing that was sent out by the Office of Emergency Management. I went to the Facebook page and had not had a single posting since April. It's been at least 6 weeks since they posted it. You compare that to New York City when they went through Sandy and the fire department. Their social media person was on social media for about 36 hours straight because she was the only source of information for certain parts of the city as to what was going on. They had no other way to get information from the city because everything was going through the 311 system and to the internet or through television. All they had was a smartphone. They could get Twitter feeds because of reduced bandwidth because cell towers were down. That was all. They could just receive a little. So she stayed online doing Twitter feeds to Breezy Point, which was devastated by the fire that basically took out a whole section of that part of New York. So I know the importance of social media in emergency management. The state of Utah, their entire website is run by social media feeds. All of their emergency management stuff's done on social media. Do you guys see that this will change as you move forward within the counties, the use of social media? Are you expecting that, or is it really what you suggested, Jacob, which is you're waiting and seeing what the legal ramifications are?
Well, we have tied them into the official county website, and we do have an alert banner running on the website and the status red button if there's a hurricane or tsunami or anything else, even road closures and what have you. So there is an official channel, and the social media just becomes secondary feeds to people that have no access to TV in severe cases or what have you. But we try to be cautious because we've also seen humans give into the temptation that social media provide to speak off the cuff and shoot from the hips, if you will. And so you need to have people very well trained to make sure they stay on message, and because if you react to nonsense that people may be posting, then you endorse it, you may create a whole impression that something's going on that may not be going on, or that something is not severe as it really is. So social media is something that everybody wants, and everybody hates to think about how are you really going to manage that. And probably not to my face, but I think I'm known as Mr. Buzzkill a lot of times, because I tell them, you really want to think about this, you really want to make sure that you don't just have people putting things on social media with the veneer of official county approval or endorsement. And that's what makes me really nervous.
Sure, that makes sense. One thing I would comment, as a media organization, we look at this a lot. And I noted that if you look at one of the more significant media events that happened recently was when the Navy SEAL team went in and went after Osama bin Laden. The first two reports of that came from the chief of staff of the president on Twitter, and then a neighbor to the compound who reported helicopters were overhead wondering what was going on, also on Twitter. So this is becoming fairly mainstream from a news media point of view. So I know it's not going to go away. The question that you pointed out is how to adopt it so that it's the right message. But also, I would argue that you can't use the typical government language on this because the people who are using it are not interested in that. They want to have a different set of language on Twitter and on Facebook and social media. So it means you can see how government adapts. Any other questions from the audience? Please join me in thanking our panelists for today.